Hi everybody and welcome to our Friday TNT, last day of the week and back in the, my own living room, and nice to have slept in my own bed last night. And tomorrow is our live program. It's an opportunity for you to make comments, ask some questions perhaps, argue with each other, argue with me and Nick. So that's on from 9 a.m. Thai time tomorrow, and we usually go for about an hour. And on Sunday we've got our latest Grumpy Old Men episode with me and Steve. Anyway, it was good to arrive back yesterday in the car. We arrived in one piece, didn't have any problems with the car. I think overall we went through around about 3,200 baht in fuel. So that doesn't make it ridiculous. I mean, it's certainly not the most economical car, but we didn't have any problems with it, and it did arrive in one piece. So there's a few little details that I want to fix up in the inside. The inside's a little bit ratty compared to the outside of the car. Then again, it's over 40 years old, so I don't expect it to be in mint condition. So they're things that I'll work on over the next year. I'll sort of keep those people who are interested in that project up to date. But so far, very happy with the car. And of course, you know, it's not necessarily for my own personal use. It'll be for the business to pick up people at the airport. So let's get on with the program. And this is just that ongoing story, our cyanide killer, and reported by Coconuts Bangkok, part of coconuts.co. Cyanide killer, police investigate sister of Thai woman now accused of poisoning 13 people. So the toll keeps on increasing. Police are investigating whether a pharmacist in the western province of Ratchaburi is linked to the death of at least 11 people poisoned with cyanide, as their suspected killer was denied bail. So police say the pharmacy is owned by the older sister of Sararat, who's the suspect serial killer, now accused of poisoning 13 people since 2020, 11 of whom died. And Sararat was arrested on Tuesday on suspicion of the 11 deaths. Investigators say the woman, the former wife of a senior police officer, did it for money. Most of the victims were women who police said had given Sararat large amounts of money. One was another ex-husband of Sararat. And police say there was a 12th victim who survived an apparent poisoning attempt, who was identified as another policeman's wife. She was said to have become nauseous after Sararat gave some medicine to treat her COVID-19 symptoms. Sararat, not a pharmacist, not a doctor. Why the hell is anybody taking COVID-19 medication from her? And another survivor, the 13th known victim, lives in Konkan. Autopsies performed on the bodies found traces of cyanide in each victim. And Thai PBS World, who has 3 stories on the latest in this particular case. This story says that police claim 13 people may have been poisoned by Sararat, only 2 survived. And police say they believe there are more victims of cyanide poisoning, and a command centre is going to be set up to receive complaints from members of the public who may have relatives with connection to the suspect who died mysteriously. And Sararat's former husband, who is a police officer, and her pharmacist sister will be questioned to determine whether they knew or were involved in the alleged poisonings. And the suspect, this is Sararat's, been found to be 4 months pregnant, according to physical tests conducted at the Central Women's Correctional Institution. And Sararat complained of headaches, stress and blurred vision, and she will be put in a special cell for pregnant women for 5 days, followed by another 5 days in a buffer cell before being sent to an appropriate detention cell. So that plot thickens. Yesterday, police interviewed a man who was able to reveal information about the potential 13th victim, also reported in Thai PBS World, and Crime Suppression Division officers have questioned the husband of a woman believed to be the 13th victim of the cyanide poisoning, and he was questioned yesterday for 7 hours. So as I mentioned yesterday, that story has lit up social media in Thailand. We'll continue to bring you the latest, of course. And big thanks to our sponsors, 5 Star Marine. So this is the headquarters of 5 Star Marine, our sponsors on TNT, and as you can see, most of the boats have already gone for the day as people head out for a fine time on the islands off Phuket. If you're interested in going on a private tour, then check out the link. I mean, they've even got a cafe here when you come back and you can have a coffee. There's a link in the description in this video. Friday's TNT. Thanks for joining us, and please subscribe to the channel. Also give us a tick on your way out. Now, this long-going saga of the Chinese submarine, Thailand's bought 3 of them, but they haven't even got the first one yet because they've got troubles with the engine. Here's the latest from the Bangkok Post. And China compromises to push submarine engine sale to Thailand. Chinese authorities will accept 3 conditions regarding the warranty, compensation and safety if the Royal Thai Navy chooses a Chinese-made engine as a substitute for a German-made one for their Yuan-class submarine being assembled in China. The Chinese Navy's pledged to support the certification of the Chinese-made diesel engine made by China Shipbuilding and Offshore International. Then the next paragraph says that Germany refused to sell its MTU 396 diesel engine to China as it's designated as a military defence item. So the Thai Navy's come up with 3 conditions to determine whether it should continue or cancel the contract. The Chinese Navy must certify the engine with the Thai Navy to assure its safety, as well as provide compensation for any construction delays. Chinese authorities insisted its engine incorporates technology almost similar to the German-made model and has been fitted in many Chinese vessels and aircraft carriers. The Navy's also discussed compensation details regarding the engine's warranty, as well as for any delay in the procurement process and changes to the value of parts. When asked about the length of time it will take to finish the submarine if the Navy opts to use the Chinese-made engine, it said it may take 3 years and 4 months. However, the Navy chief said the procurement of the 2nd and 3rd submarine may need to be postponed. Starting to get the feeling that the Thai government doesn't really want these submarines. It wasn't a popular policy when it was announced. The Thai government doesn't need the submarines, and, well, it's just fairly obvious to me that they just don't want them, and they're using this problem with the engines as a way of wriggling out of the contract. Well, that's what I think anyway. The election's underway. It's not being discussed. I really think that they're just trying to distance themselves from this Yuan-class submarine. Will the Thai government end up with 3 Chinese submarines with Chinese engines? I doubt it, but anyway, we'll find out in the future. But how are they going to pay for these submarines? Well, luckily, there's been a bit of a windfall. The nation Thailand reporting the government revenue exceeds target in the first 6 months of the fiscal 2023. The revenue collection's been surpassed by 8.9%, and that's 6.9% higher than the same period last year. And here are the things that have made that windfall. The revenue department's up 7.3% over its targets. Other agencies which have received revenue include concession fees from mobile phone operators and the auction of licences for FM radio stations. State firms also remitted their income for fiscal 2022, and the customs department's up 27.7%. A lot of people importing things, and the customs department have done very well out of it. So it looks like the government's got a bit of extra cash than it was expecting. The next story from Coconuts Bangkok, part of coconuts.co. Uyghur asylum seeker dies in Thai immigration jail after 9 years in custody. This is the 2nd Uyghur asylum seeker that's died in custody in Thailand this year. And a 40-year-old ethnic Uyghur man has died in a Bangkok immigration centre where he had been since 2014. This long-term incarceration of asylum seekers has just got to a ridiculous stage here in Thailand. Apparently the man died last week of liver failure at the Suan Plu Immigration Centre, a facility that holds hundreds of foreign nationals, including entire families out of sight in a trendy Bangkok neighbourhood. Held since 2014 for entering the country illegally, the man's death has reignited calls for the government to investigate and end the indefinite detention of asylum seekers. And Elaine Pearson, Asia Director at Human Rights Watch, said Thai authorities are putting people seeking refugee protection at grave risk by keeping them for years in awful conditions in immigration detention centres. Matoti Matosan's death should sound the alarm to end the abusive policy of incarcerating asylum seekers and refugees for prolonged periods. Meanwhile, the Bangkok Post reporting a second Uyghur dies in detention. According to Rights Group, he was the second Uyghur to die this year in the notoriously overcrowded facility in central Bangkok. Aziz Abdullah, who was 49, died in February, reportedly of pneumonia. And this man that died this week was among several groups of Uyghurs who fled persecution in China and arrived in Thailand in 2014, seeking to travel to Malaysia and on to a third country. In 2015, the Thai government forcibly sent back to China 109 Uyghur men and boys who were never heard from again. I remember that. Horrifying pictures of people barreled onto a plane hooded. Their hands were tied and they were flanked by Thai and Chinese soldiers. Would have been a frightening experience. And the story goes on to say that another 170 Uyghur women and children were permitted to travel to Turkey. A bit further down, about 50 men are still detained in immigration centres here in Thailand. Now, moving on to another story, a bit more pleasant. This is from Nation Thailand, reporting that Thailand EV registration soar in March as buyers grab generous incentives. And the total number of electric vehicles in Thailand has surged to over 61,000 in March. They had 8,522 sales, almost double January's figure of 4,543. 6,205 of those were cars and 2,263 were motorbikes. And buyers of four-wheel EVs get discounts of 70 to 150,000. If you've got if you're buying an e-motorcycle, you get a subsidy of 18,000 baht. And down the bottom there, the aim is to transform Thailand into an EV hub, with electrical vehicles making up 30% of total autos produced by 2030, and sales of combustion engine vehicles phased out completely by 2035. That's going to be controversial, given that Thailand's car industry still, by far, makes a lot of petrol engine cars. And it says that the majority of cars sold at the motor show this year were, this is electric vehicles, Tesla, BYD and MG. And both BYD and MG now with manufacturing plants here in Thailand. Moving on to our next story now, reported by VOA. Pot politics emerge as key issue in Thai election, and Thailand's political party, known for getting cannabis partially legalised in the kingdom, the Phumjai Thai Party, has accused rivals of playing politics with its flagship policy ahead of the May 14 election, warning that marijuana reform is non-negotiable if it's to join any government coalition. No matter which party gets the highest number of primary votes, it's very likely that they'll have to form a coalition. In June 2022, Thailand decriminalised cannabis to be cultivated and sold by licensed businesses for medicinal use only. But a detailed Cannabis Act failed to pass Parliament before it was dissolved in March to make time for campaigning for the upcoming election. In the legal vacuum, recreational smoking has bloomed, causing consternation amongst critics who say the law is too much, too fast. And both the Per Thai and Move Forward parties, the main pro-democracy groups expected to win the majority of seats, say the liberalisation of weed has been chaotic, has encouraged the smoking of marijuana and failed to boost poor farmers as promised. And the Secretary-General from Per Thai said, "We don't want any more weed, we're done with it." He went on to say Per Thai is for medicinal marijuana, not recreational. Do you remember, brothers and sisters, the party which sold you ganja as a magic pill to cure every illness and a cash crop for whoever grows it to become rich? The only people who got rich are the capitalists. But responding to this, a Phumjai Thai Party lead official on cannabis warned that politics is obscuring the value of cannabis to the Thai economy. He says there's no such thing as too fast, too soon when it comes to legalising weed. The whole world has already done it. Well, that's both a reckless and a misleading comment. And then he said politicians who are now against the legalisation are the same ones who voted for it to pass the first reading in Parliament, but now they're speaking out against it because of one of our policies. Well, again, that's inaccurate. The first reading was passed, but it was quite a different cannabis bill, which was then rewritten for the second reading, and on to the fifth reading, it was a completely different document. Experts forecast Pumjai Thai, led by the Health Minister Anatin Charnvirakul, could win between 80 and 100 seats. Well, somewhere between that 80 and 100 seats predicted, that's 17 to 20% of the total number of seats in the lower house, and their current polling figure of less than 3% is probably what's going to happen. But Anatin Charnvirakul, he's the magic boy. He's pulled the rabbit out of the hat in the past, and maybe he will poll a lot better on the actual polling day than he's currently polling in the lead up to the election. And that article goes on to say, from a person who runs a dispensary, there's not really a chance for the law to go backwards, but there's a high chance of rulemaking that would bar people from entering the industry. Think of it like beer. Alcohol, it won't be illegal, but it will be extremely regulated. And that article, if you'd like to read more, from VOA.com, the Voice of America. Thanks for watching today, and hopefully you're more up to date with things happening around the country. Please subscribe to the channel. That would be a really great help. And we'll be with you live tomorrow from 9 a.m. with Nick. And then on Sunday, we've got Grumpy Old Men. But thanks for joining us this week during our travels. We've got another couple of videos about the road trip coming out. But for now, have a great Friday, have a great weekend if I don't see you before, and we'll see you on Monday.